Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, distinguished guests, and folks of all stripes, put your hands together for the Space Cadet Sports Podcast. Houston, we have Paul Salazar Jr.
Hey y'all, welcome back to the Space Cadet Sports Podcast, your Houston sports podcast for die-hard Houston sports fans from a die-hard Houston sports fan. I'm Paul Salazar Jr., your favorite die-hard Astros fan podcaster. I'm an actor, improviser, writer, creative multi-hyphenate, and of course, I'm a proud Houston native, and I have the receipts to prove it. I went to Rockets games when Turbo was dunking all over the place. Remember Turbo? I've spent the last decade or so as a comedy writer in LA, and now, well, I'm podcasting. That's right, that's what happens once you hit 10 years out here. You wake up one day realizing you have to moisturize because you live in a desert surrounded by the most beautiful people in the country, and you start podcasting. Welcome to said podcast. Space Cadet Sports started as a passion project because most media is infuriating as a diehard long-term fan of the Houston Astros. Here we aren't doom and gloom fans or worse. The national media haters. We love this team and we root them on, and we want to discuss the ins and outs of them without too much homerism. The key word here is that we try to discuss that. I don't even know if I said that there, but the key word is a word that isn't even in the script. All right, folks, we're gonna... I think I in my excitement, I didn't read the right word. The wrong emphasis on the wrong syllable there. But welcome, returning listeners, and welcome to new listeners to what my brother calls the Paul Broadpod Ball Blog. Hey, brother, check out spacecadetsports.substack.com for the full blog experience, or the full blog experience if you understand that Arrested Development reference there. We're recording this transmission here in sunny Los Angeles, where I'm joined, as always, by my co-host and co-producer, the Raws to my Frasier. Carla, the dog, is here with me. Listeners of the podcast know that she may get on mic from time to time. She's got the hot takes on this podcast for sure. On this episode, we are putting our money where our mouth is. Absolutely disgusting. And looking at this roster and projecting, but that's not what we're doing. Where is my script? I'm looking at an old script. Today, we are talking about the opening day lineup and rotation and looking at key positional battles to pay attention to through spring training. We also discuss a little bit of Astros. We try to talk about the Rockets without jinxing them, and even stop by Dynamo Corner as their season has officially started. Before we get to it, though, returning listeners know it's time for a good day, mate, to all of my listeners, but especially the Australian listeners out there. We want to give a huge good day, mate, to our Australian listeners. If you know any Australians, let them know we're out here. Specifically, if they're Australian Houston sports fans, let them know this might be the show for them. Even if they're not Australian, let them know we're here for them if they're a Houston sports fan. Or, honestly, tell anybody you want to about this show. We really do appreciate it. But, for first-time listeners who don't understand what it is that I'm talking about, I hate to brag, but when this podcast first came onto the scene, when it first broke through, immediately we shot up to the charts, right outside the top 100 of Australia's top baseball podcasts. And folks, we're still dreaming of getting into that top 100. So if you know any Australian listeners, let them know that we're out there. Folks, let's get to, no more jokes, enough of that. Let's get to the podcast here. Let's talk about something that you actually want to talk about. Let's talk about Cam Smith. There's no reason to bury the lead. He is the guy that all Astros fans are talking about right now, at least the ones that are paying attention. The casual fans are still sleeping. They still are, they might still even think football season is happening, those casual fans. But the diehards, we know Cam Smith is him. And, the reasonable fans that you can find on X and AM radio out there are clamoring for him to start at third base already. First, I tell you, calmate for panicking, and now I gotta hit you with another calmate for getting excited really prematurely here. I feel bad for your wives and partners. Heyo! But seriously, folks, wild stuff. Wild stuff. I think Cam Smith is incredible. But really, if we're being honest, Astros fans have a history, a tradition, the regular Teviers out here about spring training overreaction. Remember Joey Loperfido? I don't have to say remember him because most of you are still in love with him. Y'all loved yourself some Joey Loperfido and his paella. You were eating that paella straight out of the spoon he was serving it to you with and saying, yes, chef, to Joey Loperfido last season. He had an incredible spring last year, and fans were smitten immediately. And maybe so much so that he maybe was overvalued in the Astros trade for Yusei Kikuchi. I mean, I love Joe Low myself, but maybe that amazing spring had the fans way too excited, and we need to remember sometimes that these are essentially exhibition games. The players here are making adjustments and getting reps in with their coaches and trying to make it to the regular season healthy, and some of them specifically with the role on the roster they desire. Yeah, some of these guys are ambitious. Some of these guys aren't here just to kind of get some swings in. I understand. But, for the most part, these are exhibition games, and these are people getting their reps in. Now, at the same time, this doesn't mean the results mean nothing, and it doesn't matter what they're doing. Cam Smith looks incredible. And after seeing him a lot, Astros fans have already declared that we won the Tucker trade and are already building a Cam Smith statue outside of Dyken Park. However, I'm pretty excited about him too, but I say we do the Larry David here and curb our enthusiasm. Cam does look to be the centerpiece of the Tucker trade, and Isaac Paredes was more of an immediate answer there in that trade. But Cam Smith, he was immediately our number one prospect as soon as he walked in the door. And Dana Brown trading for him is essentially Dana Brown putting his job on the line and saying that this guy is him. I know we all love Tucker. I know Tucker was a great player, but we're trading for Cam Smith because I trust Cam Smith is going to be something here. Before we get too excited, I know you're saying, Paul, I thought you were dousing us with water. Why are you hyping us up here about Cam Smith? I want to remind us all here that Cam Smith has yet to play AAA baseball. He has a longer path to making the team at the beginning of the season than a lot of other players on this roster. And I know a lot of you are saying, why, Space Cadet? He seems real. You're just saying that he's him. So let's break down my opinion here real quick, folks. Cam Smith, first and foremost, right now, is a third baseman. For all intents and purposes, he's a third baseman right now, today, in spring training 2025. On top of not getting to seeing, breaking pitches and higher pitching talent in AAA, like I mentioned earlier, let's not forget that point either. He really doesn't fit on the Astros roster right now. Not long term, right now, today, because we have a log jam of infielders. We have plenty of veteran infielders here fighting for a spot on the bench. See Guillorme, see Rogers, and plus, Joe Espada, Joe Cool himself, the Astros manager, has said that he really doesn't want prospects on the team unless they're going to see actual playing time. Kind of different than last season. That plus the addition of veterans here before spring training. I think Espada and Dana Brown, they're essentially saying they're starting off this season with the vets, and they can bring the prospects on flexibly, bring them on and use their options. Rely on the veterans early, bring the prospects up after they've gotten a feel for it, bring them on, use their options, and kind of be smart about it and use that flexibility. And one extra little thing about Cam Smith is that if they can have an extra year of arbitration with Cam Smith if he doesn't crack the team until later this year. The Astros are savvy, and Cam is likely going to be at AAA in the start of this season. However, and another thing, I'm sure you've heard that Cam could maybe learn corner outfield because, apparently this team is announcing that this is the way to make it onto the roster. That's the word on the street. I think Cam Smith, he does have the talent to be a right fielder, but he hasn't really played the position yet. So I think they're going to use him in AAA as a right fielder. And maybe, I'm saying that maybe he's a September call-up as a right fielder, and the Astros limit his use. Why, Paul? Why limit his use? Wait for it, so he can be Rookie of the Year, or at least a Rookie of the Year candidate next year, baby. Dana Brown has been aggressive in moving prospects through this system, but I think that's primarily been because of injury. I think this team needed to bring some people up last season to compete, to make it work. However, I don't think that's exactly how the Astros constantly want to, operate. I think this year the team is wanting to carry vets to begin with and bring up the youngsters when the team needs some momentum, or to spell the vets. But still, Cam looks to be so talented. He could be inevitable at some point. I just think if the Astros, and apparently me, have their way, Cam has a rookie season next year because this team is so solid, we can wait for him instead of depend on him. Maybe that's a little wishful thinking from me. Maybe that's the Astros really trusting their roster. But that is what I think the Astros want to do, and I think that is what factors in best for Cam Smith at this juncture. Now, we're talking about spring training overreaction here, folks. I don't want to just go down and break down spring training box scores or anything like that, but we do have some immediate spring training overreaction to talk about, and that was the positive side of it with Cam Smith. Let's look to the other side of the coin. Let's two-face it here. Let's Tommy Lee Jones it. Flip the coin and see the other side of the coin here. Let's talk about Myers and McCormick. On the other side of overreaction is Jake the Rake Myers and Chaz the Tasmanian Devil McCormick. These two guys are about to have a tough season with some of these X-Boys and AM Radiates out there. The fans are already turning on them like a couple of games into spring training. They will have to be productive this season. That the honest thing is that they will have to hold down their positions and not be negatives in the lineup, and the spotlight is truly on them hardcore this season. And I don't think it's really fair of me to say that. I mean, I think they know that's their job. I think that's been communicated to them. Joe Espada has mentioned as much in the press for quite some time. Dusty Baker has mentioned this. You remember, Dusty thought Chaz wasn't a big boy yet, and fans were going crazy that season. So I think that they both have dealt with this season. I don't think it's new or novel of me to repeat this here, nor is it my opinion. I'm not trying to come down hard on them or anything. They know this is the job. They know that they have to compete and hold it down. It's been their job the whole time. But now, more than ever, with the way the Astros roster is constructed, with the way that the Astros outfield is projected to be such a negative, all eyes are on them. They have had both incredible ups and some really tough downs in their young careers as they've been Astros. But they have both been big contributors, and they can both be big contributors this season. A slow start to spring training is no reason to panic, folks. I'm not even touching the Astros panic meter. We're not bringing it out. There's no reason to panic here. There's no reason to start Facebook hate pages or anything ridiculous. Let's all calm down. Calmate. Gotta hit you with another one, They will start the season, at least, in a platoon situation in the outfield. There is no other way around it. Rooting against them this early on or overreacting this early is a waste of emotion, in my opinion. There are so much bigger things happening right now, folks. Obviously, we'd love to see some good results from these two so we can find some peace through these tough times. But let's not overreact too much to these two guys that are very much going to start the season, like I said, at least minimally in a platoon situation. So let's get to it, folks. Let's no longer beat around the bush. Let's talk about the lineup. Speaking of platoon situations at the start of the season, let's look at the future here with Space Cadet. Let's look into the crystal ball here and project the starting lineup for your Houston Astros. People have done this already. Yeah, I know I'm a little behind. But I also think it's way too early to really project the starting day lineup like this. We have a month of exposition baseball to overreact to here, folks. Remember? But everyone else is doing it. I don't want to be so far behind, so let's at least get this projected roster, starting opening day roster out, even if we have to amend it later in March. So vamos, let's go. Let's look at it here, folks. Altuve, obviously, number one. He is going to be the first guy in the lineup, first guy in our hearts. And this season, get used to it, folks. He is in left field. That's right, tomorrow, Jose Altuve will play a heavily watched exhibition game in spring training in the Grapefruit League, as he will get his first start. At least he's scheduled for his first start in left field tomorrow. The cameras will be out. People will be ready. I'm hoping for a great outing for him. It's just going to be a short outing. It's going to be an exhibition. It won't be too long. But people will be watching him, and people will be ready to pounce on any little thing that they can pounce on to make news out of. This guy, he gave his infield glove away. And is what people are reporting from spring training. He's spending all of his time on outfield drills. He seems to be excited, and he's having fun. And honestly, personally, I think it's great. Jose Altuve, you want him having fun. You want him loose. I think he'll be fine to great in left field at Daikin, at least. And hopefully, he can get a good feel for the outfield, and he can play on the road, too. I think it's... People are really overreacting still. Let's see how he does in the outfield before we start overreacting, at least minimally. I think it's hilarious how, it's wild that Mookie Betts changes positions and everybody's like, we love him, what a guy, he's the best, from all of the national media. But Altuve and his selflessness is just, well, I guess he's old now. I guess his defense was worse than we thought. It is true that his defense and age is beginning to, tip in the wrong direction, but this slander is kind of hilarious. Altuve in left, I think, is going to be fun. I think we should be grateful we have a star that is willing to try something fun, even though he knows that the stakes are really high. He's giving it his all. I can't wait to see what it's like. I think he's going to be fine. Maybe it will be temporary. Maybe it's going to be the next chapter of his career. Either way, just stop freaking out and be happy that the GOAT is chill, that this isn't a Rafael Devers situation, and he's helping the team be more flexible. Altuve, your left fielder, is your leadoff batter, of course. In this 2 slot, I'm putting Isaac Paredes, your third baseman, as well. Paredes can see a lot of pitches, and while I love Alvarez in the second spot here in the lineup, I don't think that's what Alvarez exactly loves. And while me and the stats nerds in the Houston Astros front office will say efficiency, he'd be so great there, it doesn't seem to be a fit. So maybe Isaac Paredes is the best fit here. Take some pitches, get on base, have some long at-bats. I kind of like that fit. Third, I'm saying this is where Jordan goes, as your DH. This guy's going to mash this season. I'm projecting him to have a great offensive year. The Astros want him to have more opportunities to hit. I think the compromise here is third in the lineup, as opposed to second. You get him in early, but it's not too early that Alvarez is uncomfortable, feeling like he's just jumping up there and batting immediately after a quick Altuve bat. Fourth, I have Christian Walker, your first baseman. Christian Walker is going to be intimidating. I like him hitting behind Alvarez. I think this top of the lineup is going to give the opposing pitchers nightmares. Really, a lot of people will say maybe you flip these two guys. I could see that too. This is just what I'm thinking. Look, who am I? I'm a podcaster. I'm a fan. This is what I'm thinking. That they're going to try to get some more at-bats for Alvarez by placing him third. We'll see. I could be completely off here. But that's where I'm putting Christian Walker. Fifth, I have Yainer Diaz, your catcher. I think Yainer Diaz could have a huge breakout offensive year. I really think so. But he's still finding that stability and being the everyday catcher of your Houston Astros, especially one that has playoff hopes and needs his offense. It's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of work. By not having him in the third or fourth spot in the lineup, hopefully will take a little bit of the pressure off and let him flourish. And maybe by the time the playoffs come around, this guy might be in need of a promotion because of how great he's been doing. So let's hope that I'm right there, that I'm really feeling this Yainer Diaz Renaissance offensive year. Next we have in the sixth spot, JP3, Jeremy Pena, your shortstop. While I'm thinking that Yainer Diaz is going to have a huge year, he's my kind of pick to click in a way. Manager Joe Espada is calling JP3 to have a whole lot more jalapeno poppers this year. He thinks he's going to have a big year. And I can see it. After a down season and plenty of adjustments, I think Pena has found a little bit more of a groove. He can maybe have shaken off some of those expectations and is learning to trust the player he is. I think he's going to have a solid offensive and defensive year. I don't think it's going to be like last season when there's some question marks about his defense. I think he's truly going to have a really good season. But I think he'll just have to find some consistency there, our beloved JP3. I'm willing to bet on him. Both Diaz and Pena, I'm buying on. And now we're getting to the bottom of the lineup. We're looking at Chas McCormick, seventh here, folks. That's right. We're talking about the two outfielders that we were just discussing. I'm saying Chas McCormick gets the start and right to start off the season. The Tasmanian Devil has the job because the Astros don't just give your job away. Well, unless they sign a big free agent on the rare occasion. But it's Chaz's job to lose. And I don't say that to be mean. I love Chaz. I truly do. I want him to have plenty of meatloaf. I love what he's given to the team. But this is really a make-or-break opportunity here. He's got vets and prospects breathing down his neck. He's got Ben Gamel and Zach DeZenzo looking at him. The fake fans out there are getting a little angry, even though it's not even March yet. How Chaz deals with this pressure is going to be big. We're rooting for him here at the pod. He'll have to return to his previous form and have some patience at bats and swing big at pitches that he knows he can do damage with. That's some John Madden advice for sure. But him and Myers were really swinging a lot last season, and they're going to have to cut that back and have more confidence and not expanding out the zone and trying to do too much this year. I think the added pressure kind of got the better of them, both of them at times. We're rooting for some adjustments to help them get longer and better at bats. And eighth, we have Jake Myers, Jake the Rake at center field. Since we're talking about Myers kind of a little bit too there, we might as well officially slot Myers in here eighth. And we can say almost ditto to the same thing as Chaz here. Myers has amazing defensive metrics on his side. However, he doesn't quite have the power ceiling that Chaz has, but they kind of balance, or at least the power consistency, I should say maybe, because Myers can rake, but, they kind of balance out in terms of their ceiling there. I feel, hot take Paul is taking over, folks. I got a fever. Hot take here. I think the reality for these players, Chas McCormick, Jake Myers, is that one pops off and gets traded at the deadline, and the other might go from the top of the depth chart platoon player to the second of the depth chart platoon player. And the team will be very kind about it in the press and talk about how much they still believe in the player and support them. But it will be obvious that their time as the number one solution is kind of past. And I don't say this to be mean. I love both of these dudes, but I kind of think the Astros will need some pitching. One of these guys, if they pop off, could be packaged in a trade deal. Whereas the other one, if they're not kind of popping off, they can find themselves on the secondary position in a platoon situation. I think the Astros are looking to have a more permanent solution in the outfield in at least one of these positions. And, we're going to really have to see how that shakes out. And if one of these guys can step up and claim it. The ninth spot here is going to be Mauricio Dubon at second base. Doobie, we love him, and he's a hit machine. He puts the ball in play. He plays good defense, and he's a great utility man. I think Dubon will be the first player off the bench for the Astros this season. He'll slot in as a starter for a while, at least to start off the season, but while the season continues on, he'll find his role as a utility player. And not because of a dip in talent. I think he can get, attention once again this season as one of the best utility men in the game. But with the veterans and prospects on the team, Doobie will be used for his flexibility in the infield and the outfield, not necessarily as a permanent position player. His flexibility is his best attribute for the team, and they will use it. Folks, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. And we're back. Welcome back, folks. Realized how long we have been without a break. Wanted to give you a quick little break there. Carla is eating her food in the background. If you're wondering what that munching noise is, that's her addition to the podcast today. But let's really quickly move on to other things like the rotation and position battle to watch. Truly, when it comes to the rotation, I'm already on record about it, and there's really no new news. So here it is once again. We have Framber Valdez, Hunter Brown, Ronel Blanco, Spencer Arrighetti, and Hayden Wesneski in that order. If you want some more on it, if you're just looking for that rotation talk, you can go back to the spring training starting pitching episode where I expand on it a little more. But seeing that there's really no big changes, we're not amending our stance, we're just announcing it and moving on to position battles to watch. And, while I think that all of our starters are pretty set, you can make an argument that there's really, second base is the biggest position battle. I think it's really more of a backup to second base. And that's not because Jose Altuve is 100% going to play second base most of the time. That's because I think Jose Altuve, Mauricio Dubon combo is kind of your number one second baseman. So I think the secondary role is kind of what you're looking at here. And I think the biggest battle, I know it's kind of not, very sexy, is between Luis Guillorme and Ben Rogers. Kind of a veteran battle to see, who is going to make the squad. Because I really don't think that either one of these men want to necessarily be in the minor leagues. So which one of them, if either, will be a veteran presence off the bench for the Astros to start the season? Luis Guillorme is a Mets fan favorite. Fans on Blue Sky were chirping at me about him. They were talking to me about him too. They really like Luis Guillorme there. And Ben Rogers has had some success in Colorado and wants to be on the Astros. So this could really kind of come down to intangibles. This might not be a regular positional battle in spring training where whoever has the best on-field results kind of takes the edge. It could be more of a clubhouse fit over how they performed on the field. This is my position battle to watch. Hot take, or maybe it's like a Taco Bell mild take, sponsored by Taco Bell. We're not. Taco Bell, we could be, if you give me some money. Or tacos. Honestly, I'll do this for tacos. Let's be honest. If you have some tacos to send this way, we'll take that sponsorship. And you know what? Why am I just taking corporations? If you're a mom and pop taco stop, and you want to sponsor the podcast for some tacos, hit me up. I'm being serious. Let me know. I'll do it for tacos. Moving on, folks, after that mild take there that we're looking for a sponsor. Let's talk about our Houston Rockets real quick. Let's talk about those Rockets, hopefully without jinxing them. I've got to admit, I've been hesitant to talk about them again on the podcast because I thought that I was the one who jinxed them. But the Rockets have gone through a tough stretch of games, going 37-22 so far on the season, dropping down to 4th in the West. And while the pundits have found new teams to talk about, the Rockets have been looking for more consistency. Coach Ime Udoka has mentioned needing to find a scorer late in the game. finding some more consistency when the game is on the line has definitely been an issue for these Rockets. Finding some offensive consistency, injuries and inconsistency from Jalen Green and Alperen Sengun have really been tough for the team. Injuries not necessarily to those players, but just injuries all around. Inconsistency from getting those players the ball or finding some offensive consistency for them has been tough, especially late in games and closing out games, but they still have been really, really good. Not to mention, they're also really fun to watch still, plus Amen Thompson. Can I get an amen? Amen Thompson is having a breakout year and just continues to get better and better in front of our eyes. This will be remembered as the Amen Thompson year. Can I get an amen out there? I still think, I wrote earlier in the season, a couple months ago, that I think they should let these kids cook and not trade anybody away. I still think that's the right idea. I don't know who to add to this team. I'd say let them figure this out. I do think we're a couple of pieces away from a team that has a deep playoff run for sure. I'm not saying that this completely works and lock it in. But I'm not for breaking this group up too early just for like some kind of second round playoff exit or something and being locked into some veteran that might be a little salty about being here. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I am. I don't know. I think this team will find some stability in this zone in the Western Conference and can make some noise in the playoffs and build on that and come back with a better squad next year. What do you think, though? Let me know what you think. Really quickly, let's move on to the Texans. The Texans are prepping for the Combine and are a little more cash-strapped this offseason than last. So the draft will be a primary focus for improving this team this year. So how can they improve the O-line in this draft? That's what I'm thinking. Will they just kind of go best prospect on the board because they really don't have the offensive lineman that will make an immediate impact? I don't know. I really am asking you. Let me know what you think. And one final segment on the pod. We're stopping by Dynamo Corner. Your Houston Dynamo, they're back. They're in orange. The roster has some big subtractions. They have a new goalkeeper. Ache is no longer here. Coco is gone. But can Ben Olsen guide this team to more success? We'll have to see. They already fell in the opening game in the Texas Derby, losing to South Oklahoma 2-1 and a tough loss for you, boy. However, they play Miami on Sunday at home. Let's pray for a win. Thanks for humoring my football out there. I know there's some people that react to the Dynamo. I know that. We could talk about Premier League. Arsenal is my team because, honestly, because my partner Sarah, my fiancée Sarah, she is an Arsenal fan and she puts up with all of my sports fandom, so I'm a fan with her. But anyway, let me know what you think. Let me know what you think about the Rockets, the Texans, the Dynamo. Let me know what you think about my Houston Astros hot takes there, for sure, folks. And that's going to do it for this transmission, Space Cadets. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. As my voice is giving out, I need some water. Having a tough one, folks. Thanks for putting up with me, Space Cadets. We are a small podcast. We only go as far as our listenership takes us. We are sponsored by listeners like you. So please smash all of those buttons for me. Like, rate, review, subscribe, share, bop it, kick it. All of those things really do mean a lot for me. Subscribe, download the episodes, all those things. Check out my Substack at spacecadetsports.substack.com, where you can be a free subscriber and get everything emailed to you for free. Or you can get the Substack app, search Space Cadet Sports, get the notifications instead of emails by just clicking a little box there. No more emails, you just get the mobile experience instead. And once again, that is for free. You can be a supporter. You do get some perks for being a supporter, but all of this is for free. Go check out the Substack. I try to make sure a lot of content is available for you, my dear Houston fans. You can also, you're like, Paul's asking for my opinions. I want to call in and let him know. You can call into the Speak Pipe, that's speakpipe.com/Space Cadet Sports, and let me know your take. Let me know what you think out there, folks. Thank you so much for listening. I really do appreciate you. Remember to be the best that you can be. Keep your head up, kid. And as always, vamos Houston.